Hello knitters and friends, welcome to the Seedling Stitch Knitting Podcast. My name is Athena. I am a knitwear designer and I also work as a staff at local yarn store here in Vancouver, Canada. The store is called White Coast Wools, the picture here. This is my channel where I chat everything about knitting, my knitting designs, inspirations, projects, sometimes crochet and sewing as well, and also about my acquisitions, about mostly Japanese pattern books and Chinese yarns or random yarns that I've gotten. I am from China, but I live here in Canada now, so I have access to Chinese yarn and Chinese knitting books and Japanese knitting books as well. So that's part of my passion on knitting, and I'd also like to share this with you here so that maybe my channel could be a window for you to learn a bit more about the East Asian knitting world. I'm not a native speaker as always, so if you find me speaking too slowly or there are grammar mistakes, feel free to speed up the video, ignore any mistakes. I think you all accept and I always thank you when you say my English is good, so just makes me feel less stressful when I'm making these English language videos. And if you speak Mandarin Chinese, I also have a Chinese channel. It's linked in my homepage, 小河老编织. So if you are learning the Chinese language or speak the language and want to learn more about the Chinese side of my knitting things, feel free to check out my Chinese channel. So today's episode, there will be a couple of knitting projects I've finished, and there are a lot of new knitting books that I've acquired that I'd like to share with you. So feel free to grab your knitting, bring a cup of tea or any drink you like, and let's get started with today's episode. So let's start with what I'm wearing. I am wearing actually two things. On the outside, this is the Jewel Scancer from the Sandnes Garn magazine 2202 issue. I finished this last month probably. I've showed this in my last episode and talked a lot about this, so I'll avoid talking more about it. It's just I haven't been making any episodes wearing this alone, and today the weather is not too hot, so it's just the nice weather to wear it, so that I'll have an episode with this beautiful top. Yes, and beneath this, ta-da! It's so weird. I'm wearing my vine top. I have two vine tops. I knitted two samples. I'll just show you this one without flashing you. So I've knitted two samples. This is my own design. It's called the vine top. The pattern has been released now, I think last week. Was its first release, and it has been quite well received, and thank you for those who have already purchased the pattern. And if you are new, please consider this pattern. And this is a top down sleeveless top featuring this vine stitch pattern that I designed. The shoulder stripe is quite wide, so I'd say this is a bra friendly pattern. So like if you are wearing a bra beneath this, it won't show anything because it will cover all the bra. But I don't think that's a problem if you don't care about bras. And there are a lot of bra projects that I finished in this episode that I'm very excited to talk with you about. Back to the vine top. I knitted with a sports weight linen yarn. It's a Chinese linen. You can still buy it is called Lotus yarn. You can find them on Etsy, but there's a lot of substitution yarns that you can use with linen or linen cotton blend with the similar component in the sports way that you can use. And I've also given a lot of the yarn recommendations on the pattern page. I've given a few more options for this top. This I'm showing you here is the cropped length, and what I'm wearing here is a regular length, and also this one is a no split hem, and what I'm wearing, this one I actually put in a split hem because it's longer, and with the split hem it fits the hip part a bit better. So that's just some design thoughts. And the best part, my favorite part about making this design is to see all my task knitters using all the different colors of yarns to make this top. I'll put a screenshot of the pattern page. I'll put a lot of photos from my task knitters, and we basically achieved a rainbow color range. There's definitely red. There's no orange, so maybe some non-task knitter, like other knitters, who loves the color orange, could do this in orange. There's definitely a yellow, green, multiple green shades actually. There's the teal color, like the blue-green colors, and then the blue. There's pale blue or darker blue colors, and a plum purple and the purple. Yeah, there are quite a few shades of purple out there in my task knitters range. There's also some neutral colors like the wheat color, and there's a white color that's really beautiful. So yeah, please check out the projects tab of the vine top pattern on Ravelry. I'm really proud of my task knitters' work, and they also have given me a lot of good advice on how to improve the writing of my patterns so that it's more easy to use. Yeah, I'm very grateful to my task knitters, and I think we had a very successful task knit. So just because this video was taken 1 week after the pattern release, I think I will revive my new release discount. So you can get a 15% off on this pattern with the code vine top, just the name of the pattern. And also there will be a long-term bundle discount with my vine tee. So with the same stitch pattern, I have a t-shirt. Oh, it's like this. I have a t-shirt also featuring an optional split hem on the side like this. Oh, it's very hard to show without wearing it. And a sleeve, a double folded sleeve. It's quite an elegant pattern, knitted in the linen of Sandnes Garn, a DK weight summer yarn. If you buy these two vine patterns together, you will get the second one half price. And if you've already purchased one of the pattern and is interested in getting the other pattern, this discount can be applied retrospectively, so you just automatically get the second one for half price. Yeah, so that's what I'm wearing, and a little advertisement for myself. Oh, and also my pattern is available on my Ko-fi shop, so if you don't use Ravelry for any reason, there's other ways where you can get the pattern. And let's move on to finished objects. Actually, the finished objects I have for this month, July, are all bras. So let me start with, since we're on the page of vines, so let me start with my vine bralette. I finished my vine bralette. It's just a bralette. It looks like this. And it features the same vine pattern here that you've seen on my vine top and my vine tee. I'm really dwelling on my stitch pattern. I think it's a very interesting stitch pattern because there's some lace, there's a twist stitch, and there's also some cabeling and some textures. It's a small pattern, but it has everything. It's just very interesting for me, and I just want to sprinkle this vine on every type of garment, and hence I have my vine bralette. And this is a bottom-up construction actually, and then it finishes with this I-cord that you sew at the back. There's a few technical details that I haven't decided on yet, especially for like how to do the shoulder, the bottom, this like stretchy band, the underbust band. So for the grid, I haven't done the grading or the writing of the pattern yet. I've only just knitted this sample for my own size. There's still a lot of technical details that I have to figure out, but there's another very important project that I'm currently working on, and I'll tell you more about that in a moment. But here it is, so there's something to look forward to. And this one, the grading will be done differently. The underbust will, this underbust elastic band will depend on the actual underbust measurements, so it will be like tailored to your own underbust. And the cup size, I will offer like an A, B, C, D, E, probably like 5 sizes to accommodate different breast size. Regarding the yarn, it is, I knitted on 3.5mm needles. It is a Chinese bamboo linen cotton blend yarn that is very similar to the linen of Sandnes Garn. It's a little bit thinner, and actually the bottom band, you can see the color is different. On the bottom band is linen, is some leftover yarn from making the my vine tea project. It's just a little bit of leftover yarn, and then the top part is the Chinese bamboo blend yarn that I only have one ball. The company of the Chinese yarn company sent me this yarn for free for me to try and promote on Chinese social media. They don't really sell this yarn here in English knitting world, unfortunately. But yeah, I'll put a few photos of me wearing this. I think the fit is very good for me, and it's a soft yarn knitted on a tight gauge, so it doesn't show, so it won't like show anything through the holes of the fabric. It's a tightly knitted fabric, and it's fairly it's a quick knit. It's because there's not much area, so it will be a quicker project. I probably will be working on this in August or September, depending on how much time I have in the next few months. But yeah, this will be the next installment of my vine series. And in my mind, I also have a vine stocks planned, a vine sweater planned, and maybe, oh, and a vine camisole. I also want to extend this sort of design into a camisole for those who like the thin straps. And just when I have time, I'll work on those. So that's the vine bralette. And then I'll move on to the next bra. Here, ta-da! I also put some pictures of me wearing this one. This is the basic bra by Naked Knit. The pattern, let me find it. This is the pattern, basic bra by Naked Knit. It's the second time that I've knitted this pattern. The first time I knitted with China hemp yarn. It feels more like a linen, and this one is knitted with silk brushed cashmere. It's a beautiful yarn. I love knitting with this yarn so much. Unfortunately, you cannot get the yarn again. It's still the Chinese yarn company Shike who sent me this yarn for free. It's very, very thin, so for the project I have to hold 2 strands together to meet the gauge. This one, the original design was done in fingering weight cashmere yarn and on 2.5mm needles. And for me, I use this brushed cashmere yarn holding 2 strands together. I think the fabric is just like tight enough and not too thick. Like it's a great thickness. And I've only used 1.5 a ball. This is like the 25-gram balls. That's very similar to those silk mohairs in terms of weight and feeling. Of course it's much softer than silk mohair. It's so soft. It's so creamy. It's the best experience of knitting with any yarn that I've had. Yeah, and the color is beautiful. You know, I have a thing for green, the color green and green things. And yeah, I just want to have a green bra. Well, yeah, this is already green. The bralette is already green, but it's the blue kind of green. And now I have like a yellow kind of green, so I'm very satisfied with how it comes out. Yeah, I don't know what you think about knitted bras. When I post this on social media, especially on the Chinese social medias, a lot of women or girls fans responded that they are worried about these knitted bras are too thin, so that it will like show the shape of the nipples. Maybe like in the Western world this is not much of a worry, but I totally get this kind of concern and worry for Chinese women similar to my age or younger to worry about these. So for one thing, it will definitely show the shape to some extent. I think a lot of Chinese women or Asian women are used to those heavily padded bras or the push-up bras that's just it's just a cage around your chest, basically. I grew up wearing those things as well because that's what my mom was used to and that's what she bought for me. And for a while I just thought you have to wear that, and it's a shame. It's shameful to show the shape of the nipples. But like in the recent years, learning more about feminism and these things, the downside of the patriarchal world, I've started to reflect upon these things, and it just feels like it's just another layer of the shame on women's body that the society put inside our head. I mean, you never see a man worrying about showing the shape of their nipples or showing their nipples, just being naked, showing their nipples. They are never ashamed of that. I mean, we're human and humans have nipples, well, unless there's some conditions, right? But then why should female be ashamed of just only showing the shape of the nipples? It's just a part of the human body. And I think that's sort of stemmed from the over-sexualization, is that the word? The sexualization of a female body. It's just shows to make us believe that the breast is a sexual organ or it has some sexual meaning. And if you're showing the shape of the nipples through a tightly knitted fabric, then you are then you are like seducing people, or like you are morally bad. it's probably like when these Chinese women who were asking me about these bras showing the shape of the nipples, they are not they're not thinking all about this, but I think all of these things are like a virus, like a computer virus that's running on the back of their mind. And I've been feeling that this kind of virus had been running on the back of my mind for many years, and I had to extract these virus from the back of my mind and rethink what's good for my body, what feels good to wear, and what things I wear that can make me happy and beautiful and comfortable. And it's just not to please anybody or just to avoid this feeling of shame. There's no shame in having a nipples in your body. That's ridiculous. But yeah, but I think in China or these Asian societies, these girls are worried that if they wear something like this, then there will be guys who's staring at them, and they just feel very insecure about their body, about their situation, and that's very understandable. And they had to cover the shape with something. It's very unfortunate, but it's not their fault at all. It's not their fault, and it's the guy's fault, and they should learn that not to be shameful. Like, I mean, they have been wearing things appropriately. And now I don't feel this insecurity of my body when I'm in Canada, but I think if I'm living in China for a longer period of time, I might feel the same kind of pressure and insecurity. It's just very unfortunate, and it's the society that needs to be changed. And I'll just be vocalizing more on these ideas so that eventually there will be change, instead of girls finding ways to cover the shape of their nipples. Yeah, it's just some thoughts. Yeah, I don't know what it's like in the Western world, especially if you're growing up in Canada or America or Europe. What's the nipple covering situation for you? I don't know if you've ever feel this way or have similar feelings or thoughts as you grow up. Please share and let me know. So I think nowadays when I'm just wearing a sweater, I just completely go no bra or t-shirt. And these these things sometimes I just like wear alone, and this is super comfortable. It's cashmere. It's not it just gives me the coverage, but not like making everything too warm. And sometimes I just wear it alone and with a shirt and feel secure enough to walk under the sunshine. But I would not feel the same way if I'm in China. In China, I definitely would not wear this with a shirt. I'd feel a bit worried. That's unfortunate. But I'm okay with this showing a little bit of the shape of the nipples. So yeah, so that's the talk on bra. And that's all my finished objects. And I'll move on to talking about my work in progress. And and for work in progress, I've only had one thing that I'm currently working on, and that's the wedding dress. This one. I've made a few short videos talking about this, but if you missed that, let me talk about the story again. So it's a wedding dress, but I actually have gotten married 4 years ago in 2019, but it was a very small wedding, just with 2 friends and me and my husband, and the person who did our wedding and signed. What's the word? Yeah. Anyway, it was a very small wedding, and we just like walk along the Vancouver beach basically, and did the very small ceremony, and then it was done and taken a lot of beautiful pictures. My family couldn't came because things, and then we were planning to go back to China to have a Chinese wedding, but then the pandemic happened, and my PhD happened. My PhD had happened during the wedding, but yeah, I was busy with trying to get graduated and stressed about that. But now the pandemic was hopefully, and the PhD was completed. I'm free, and now we're going back to China finally this year. As in next month, I'm coming back to China late August and stay there for 3 weeks, and then we will have a make-up wedding or a 4th year anniversary thing happening. Yes, so, and then initially my mom was recommending me to wear those traditional Chinese dress, and it always has to be red, and I look awful in red, and I don't like those styles of those traditional Chinese dresses. I just don't feel comfortable in them. It was not me. And then just in this heated discussion, I remembered that I have this book. It is the Keitodama. It's a Japanese knitting and crochet magazine, quarterly magazine. I've owned this. It's 2019 summer issue. It's the 2019 summer issue. I just remember that I own this, and I can crochet and knit now. And I remembered this beautiful dress, and then I just decided I'm gonna make it. And when I decided, there were 6 weeks before my flight back to China. So I just decided to drop all my other knitting work and start working on this solely. So it has been a bit more than 2 weeks. It's almost 3 weeks since I decided on this. And also the yarn, the original design in this issue, they used a silk yarn with like a silver strand in fingering weight. It's a Japanese yarn, and then I'm gonna use the knitting for all of pure silk, which is comparable in terms of weight and component. And the color is dusty artichoke. It's a green, it's not a white. So this is actually not a dress, it's actually a top and a skirt, and I just think I can make them in my favorite color so that I won't only be wearing this in that makeup wedding on that day. I can also wear it in like separately in usual occasions. It will just be a beautiful top. And yeah, so that's what I've been decided on the color. And I've been recording a few vlogs so that I'll be able to put together a video on the whole making process of this dress. I don't want to spoil too much details on it in terms of constructions and such, but I do want to show you what I have for now. I have finished. Ta-da! I have finished the top, basically, not all done. So yeah, it's an all crochet project on 2.3 millimeter hook. The hook I'm using, it is a Clover brand. It's the Amour is the line, and I really enjoyed using this crochet hook. It feels really nice. Wherever you can get it, this is the best crochet hook that I've ever used. I really like it. And I've finished the top. There will be an embellishment around this that I haven't finished, and I won't be finishing because it's not me who will be doing it. Celeste, who's also working at the yarn store, and she's a friend, and she likes to crochet, knitting, and sewing too, and she offered to make the embellishment. So I'll show you in the photo. There is an embellishment between the transition of this pattern and the flower motifs. So it's just a crocheted belt that you will be sewing onto the top. So once she finished, I'll sew that on so that the top will be a group effort, and then I'll block and wash and block the thing. Yeah, I actually have to finish it a few days sooner because I'll have to wash and block before I board on the flight. So a lot of pressure. I crocheting many hours every day. Yes. So that's the top, and I have started working on the skirt. So I only started like a couple days ago, so it's only this part, and I won't be making the full length. This is a very long skirt. It's a 105 centimeter skirt, and I'll make it into a midi length, so I'll like cut a few pattern repeats and yeah, and then do this. Let's show you some beautiful photos of this one. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested in the Keitodama magazine or any of the Japanese knitting magazines that I'm about to show you, you can find all of them on Etsy. There's a seller called Pomodoro24. She stocks all these Japanese crafting books. So yeah, so since I'm going back to China, apart from the makeup wedding, there will also be a lot of visiting with family, tasting delicious Chinese food. There's a lot of food that I deeply miss, and also I'll be visiting a few Chinese fabric stores. I don't know if there's still yarn store, but if there are, I'll try to visit some and take some footage. And also I'll be able to see my grandma in person, and maybe I'll do a little interview with her because she's a great sponsor of my knitting. She has sent me a lot of yarns, and if you watched my past episodes, you know a lot of sweater projects that I made out of the yarn that she sent me, and I still have a huge amount of her yarn in my stash that I yet need to figure out ways to use. So very exciting. Yeah, so that's my current work in progress. Very much focused on the crocheting, and then let me move on to new acquisitions. I have quite a lot of acquisitions to show you. I have 3 books and some yarns. So let's start with the first book. It is another Keitodama issue, the Japanese magazine. It is the last year, the 2022 winter issue. And I mostly have these Japanese books in Chinese translations. This is Chinese translations, and that's why it's coming so late. But the Chinese translation is so much cheaper and also easier to read for myself. So I've subscribed to Keitodama so that I'll have it whenever it's available. And this is the Aran sweater issue, and it features a lot of cable knitting sweater. And this issue is what actually made me decide to subscribe to Keitodama, because I love the patterns so much. And I'll just flip through it to show you a few of my favorite patterns. So these two are one of my favorite designs, especially this dark blue one. If you watched my make plan video, I have bought the Donegal tweed yarn in color blueberry. That's very similar to this one. And this design is what made me to decide to try a darker blue color to make a cable sweater. And I don't know yet if I want to just knit the design, or I'll probably design something myself, because that's always more fun. And but yeah, this one is what inspired me. Like normally I would think darker colored cable sweater, darker yarn colors makes it very hard to show the cable patterns, but this one like so subtle and so elegant. I love it so much. Oh, the original yarn for this design was with woven felted tweed, but I love Donegal tweed. That's also available in the yarn store. Another bigger photo of this one. The designer of this one is Keitodama. It's also the designer of the wedding dress that I'm making. She's so talented. I can't believe how can she do so many things. And there's a cardigan, and this one is actually quite cute, a black and white slip over, and a little grandpa's cardigan and the matching sweater with the same pattern, and some vest, some cardigan, and some Gansey sweater. I think it's probably like Gansey styles. The blow up photos of the stitch pattern. And this one is very unique. It's a sideways knitting one, and it looks really nice. And then this one, what was this? A slip over with matching gloves. And that's all the errand section. And then there's also some winter crochet projects in this book. The Keitodama is so there are so many patterns. There are 69. Here's all the patterns in the back of the book. It's a really good one, and including some amigurumi of the Japanese little monsters. And there's always, oh, there's some socks pattern as well. And this one is also it's an advertisement for the designer Tokai Erika's color work. There's no pattern for these. It's just an advertisement for Tokai Erika's kit. And this one, is this familiar? Yes, because I have knitted this one. This is the wall garden sweater. This is the advertisement print in the book, and I have purchased this kit. And just look into my previous episodes. I think in my 2022, what I have made in year 2022, because this was the last sweater that I have made in the past year. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I'm so proud of what I have done for this. And this is the Hitomi Shira. Hitomi Shira, if you don't know, she's the designer of the Japanese Stitch Bible 250 and 260, or Japanese Stitch Dictionary, the Japanese Bible. Anyway, she's the designer of the very popular stitch pattern dictionaries, and many popular designs such as the Kutar top by Sari Nordland was adapted from patterns from Hitomi Shira's stitch dictionary. And in the Keitodama, every issue there is one design from Hitomi Shira, and this is the Hitomi Shira design from this one. I think it looks really beautiful. And there's some more, and there's some knitting machine. Yeah, there's always a knitting machine tutorial in the book, and then the rest will be the patterns for all the beautiful beautiful patterns in the book. So yeah, very excited. I learned a lot from this book. Next book I've acquired is Sandnes Garn Tema 74, and As in, I've talked about that in my 2023 make plan video that I want to make this one, and now I finally got the issue. I actually had to get this book from the Chinese stockist of Sandnes Garn because it's very hard to buy this book anywhere else. This one just features some staple Marius design. This is the Marius pattern from Sandnes Garn, and this one is on 9mm needle, like it's a chunky knit. This one, and I just really like this one. And also there is another worsted weight sweater in this book, this one that I also quite like. Just a different construction, but looks really nice. And also there's a child and man version, so here are all the patterns in this little booklet, and yeah, it's just very nice to have. Then I also have some yarn. I have gotten the Van Gogh socks yarn. So I had a thing for Van Gogh paintings when I was in high school. I just really like his paintings. All the vibrant colors and the rich brush strokes. I love that. And then I found there's a series of Van Gogh sock yarn, and I was like so excited, but I cannot get all of them. It's expensive. So I had to pick 3 out of, I think, probably 9 in the Van Gogh collection. It was the Opal, the famous Opal socks, and with the Van Gogh collaboration. And I picked 3, which is, this is the night coffee, or the coffee night coffee. So anyway, it's this painting, and I used to hang a painting, hang a picture of this painting in my bedroom when I was in high school, because somehow this painting makes me think of Harry Potter and magic world in my in my teenage brain. And yeah, I just really like this painting. And this one is, I think the painting was called The Bridge in All or something. I just really like the color, the green bluish color. And this one is the famous sunflowers from Van Gogh, and it's so beautiful. I love these. There's also the Starry Night, but I think the Starry Night of these ones is not very close to the original painting. And like these 3, I just like see these colors and immediately they called for the original colors from the painting. And yeah, so I got these socks yarn, and I think these will be my project to do when I was boarding on plane. It will be 17 hours of flight back to China, and I have to like go from Seoul, Korea. So yeah, so it will be a long flight, and I better have something fun but simple to work on the plane. Yeah, I actually have a question for you. If you have experience bringing your knitting projects to flights, I'm planning to bring my Lucky wooden needle, like these ones, on plane. I think if it's wooden, it's like similar to a pencil, and that's probably okay. Or if not, I'll bring my crochet, because there's no sharp point. But I don't know, would a crochet hook like this be allowed on plane, or it's safer to bring sock knitting projects with wooden needles? If you have any experience, please let me know. Thank you. And I'll also be doing some research to see what people say. So that's my sock knitting projects, and I think I'll probably knit like a few pairs out of these for my mom and my dad, and then for me, of course. Yeah, so it's this one. And there's still more acquisitions. It's an acquisition heavy episode. I have some gifts. These are gifts that I received from New Zealand. A longtime listener and my test knitter, Jie, she kindly sent these to me. She test knitted my pine fur sweater and my twin tree, the linen socks that I've designed. I'll put her pine fur sweater. She knitted a white, a neutral colored version that looks very beautiful. And by the way, the pine fur sweater will be released early August. I think it will be August 11th that I'll be releasing the pine fur sweater pattern, just so that I have a couple weeks before for like the promotion of the pattern before I leave for China, where like it will be very hard to access to Instagram and all these foreign websites. Yes, these are her gifts to me. This yarn is the Hulu by Happy Go Knitting. It's a very special gift because the yarn is made out of possum fiber. It is, let's see, 80% merino and 20% possum. And the color she picked is my color, right down my alley. She knows me. she started watching me when I started making these podcasts, and she also came from China, so she speaks Chinese, and when I started making Chinese videos, she was able to watch those as well. So yeah, it's been great. Anyway, she's in New Zealand. Diversion of topic. She's in New Zealand, and the possum fiber is it's a specialty in New Zealand. I've actually read about this in the Keitodama magazine. I read about possum fiber in New Zealand in the 27th issue that I've showed in one of my previous podcasts. And in every of these Keitodama, there is a knitting world news page, and here it's talking about New Zealand, and it's talking about how these animals, this is the possum. The possum, they became kind of like a invading species, like they grow without natural enemies, and they just like keep growing, and there are too many possums, but they make very fine and soft fibers. So the yarn people like us decided to use the possum to make into yarns. Yay! So it's a very warm, very soft, maybe not as soft as cashmere, but is very close to that. It's a very like a very short fiber, so it very short and thin fiber, so it doesn't scratch on the skin. This feels very nice, and it's a 100 gram skein and 400 meters. I think I'm planning to make a vine camisole with it. It's enough yardage, but I'll have to have the time. Then it can be like a inner layer because it's a warm one, like to just to be like a inner layer to keep me warm when I put on another layer of sweater, something like that. But also the vine camisole will be able to be knitted with summer yarn for summer weather. But yeah, so that's enough yardage to make a camisole, and that's the plan in the future. And a second gift she sent me is a Japanese sewing book, because she ordered some. She was ordering some knitting book, but the seller sent her a sewing book wrongly. And as you all know, I started picking up sewing from this year, and then I got this one, and there are quite a few patterns that I'm interested. This is Sita's adult sewing book, and there are some patterns that I'd be happy to make. There's this pants that has this very interesting, like almost patchwork-like construction. But of course, I'll have to be better at sewing. And then the pants looks simple and has a nice fit. And also there are some like these dresses. I haven't made any dresses, so like some of these dresses would be nice to try, and some shirt dresses. These are very nice designs, not too fancy, very wearable. So I think eventually I will try to make them. But when I finish all these like wedding dress ordeal and the designs, so many things to knit, so little time, only 2 pair of hands, what can I do? Yeah, so that's all the acquisitions, and just some random chats before I let you go. Since I started working on my crochet dress, I have to spend a lot of time crocheting, and also my crochet, this is a difficult piece, so I have to look at it, so I cannot watch knitting podcasts. Like anything that requires eyes would not work. So I started listening to audiobooks, and I highly recommend you check out this app called Libby. And it's if you have a local library, definitely register with those. I'm here registered with the Vancouver Public Library. Then I can like borrow a lot of audiobooks from Libby just by putting in my accounts of the Vancouver Public Library account. Yes, and then I can borrow a lot of awesome audiobooks. And just in our library, there is a skip the line option where you can borrow some very popular audiobooks, but only for 14 days within a short amount of time. And then in this way, anyway, I listen to these books like super fast. I consume them like probably like 2 days per book in the speed like that. So there's not a problem, so I'm able to borrow a lot of popular or great books from the skip the line selection. And yeah, I've listened to a few like fictions, historical fictions, and also I started listening to some self-help book. And recently I listened to some books about setting boundaries, and that has been really helpful and almost eye-opening for me. The specific one that I'd recommend is this one called Setting Boundaries, Find Peace. And I realized that I had been having the challenges for setting healthy boundaries, especially with my family. And if you grow up in the Asian culture, you know there's no such thing as boundaries. In the Asian family, the whole family is tied as a whole thing, and your family's, your parents' happiness is your own happiness. If your if you don't satisfy your parents' need, then they will manipulate you or in many different ways, so that basically you will relinquish your own boundary, and then just the whole thing, that everybody becomes a whole entity and you lose yourself. And just growing up in this culture, I kind of was like I have a people-pleasing characteristics. I was constantly in fear that I would let people down. I don't take care of my own well-being, and I just really just want to make other people happy. And sometimes this was by sacrificing my own well-being, my own time, my own happiness, and that's bad. yeah, so starting from now on, or after reading this book, I'll have to make more I statements and learn more about my needs and learn better ways to communicate my needs with other people, and to learn to say no when I don't want things, or I don't like specific things or things that they offer. Like, it's a very common thing for parents to say to you that I want you to do this because this is for your own good. But even if their intention is good, it doesn't mean that it's something that I want to do. And if it's not, I have to learn to establish this boundary around me and to say that thank you, but this is not what I want, and I want that. And and like all of this thing stemmed from my wedding dress, because my mom wanted me to wear the red dress, and I wasn't being able to say no. But I really hate red dress, and then we sort of went into a fight, or like all the manipulative behaviors through that. And during those heated discussions, I almost felt like I let my mom down or make her unhappy because I refused to wear red, and I felt like it was my fault to wear this thing and to make my mom angry. But now I learned that it's not my fault, and I should be able to wear whatever color, that's green, whatever color that I like. And it's not a selfish behavior to wear the color that I like. Like, a lot of things, she make me feel like I'm a very selfish person and don't care about what the other people think. But I'm not selfish. I'm just taking care of myself and my well-being. And also, I'll just have to find a way to let her accept my boundary without feeling too irritated. But if she still felt that way, it's not my fault. Yeah, I think that I've stretched too much. Yeah, that's the little chat that I want to do. And if you have time, get the Libby app and start listening to some good audiobooks. So with that, we reached the end of this episode. Thank you for knitting and chatting with me. If you would like to support me, please consider subscribe, and make a comment on this episode, so that potentially this episode can reach more knitters. You can also support me on my Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/Seedling Stitch. You can donate monthly or donate one time, and I also have my patterns on sale there and also on Ravelry. So any means that you can support me financially would be really, really helpful. All my project notes are on Ravelry, including those ones that I haven't designed, like designed by other people. So yeah, if you want to learn specific yarn or yardage that I used, you can find them there. Yeah, that's the end of the episode, and I'll just, as usual, put a short video of me playing the piano at the end. I didn't have time to practice new songs, so here is a previous song that I have played. And enjoy. Taking care of yourself. Happy knitting, happy making. See you next time, probably in China. Bye. Ow.